Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Subramaniam Masalamani. I am a Tamil. Today my topic is Sri Lanka, a mafia-controlled government, government-sponsored racism, fanaticism, Nazism, and state terrorism. Behind this veil of isms is a mafia state. Racism, fanaticism, state terrorism have become the marketing tool of a mafia state. In this world, there are two kinds of societies. One that operates under certain accepted civility, norms, etiquettes, traditions, heritage, and culture, and the other that take advantage of such societies. Mahinda Rajapaksa knows the difference and how to make use of it. He reminds me of the Gambino family of New York Mafia and the mobster John Gotti. Today he looks more like an advisor and counselor to the mafia, but he is the head of it. Democracy is a very weak soul that needs social immune system and active participation of the citizens. Otherwise, it becomes a victim in the hands of unscrupulous elements. In Sri Lanka, Rajapaksas are known criminals from the Sri Lankan south who have taken over the nation's administration skillfully and control the institutions that control the lives of people. Behind a purport and democratically elected government lies a mafia-style infrastructure. If one is wise and wise, democracy is an excellent pathway to power. Wrong kind of power and not good for the citizens. The great gentleman who proposed the idea of democracy never thought wiseness and wickedness can be together in one man. At the same time, successive Sri Lankan politicians have marketed the idea that Tamils do not belong to Sri Lanka, and hence the Sinhalese people have never accepted Tamils as part of their nation. Tamils are aliens and must go, or whoever wants to stay will not have any civil rights. It is back to animal kingdom. We already see this plan and policy in action. My own Tamil people behave like slaves, serfs, and second-class subjects. Fear, subordination, and servitude predominates their character. They do not behave like modern, liberated, free people, even after coming to the Western civilization. Sad indeed, the capacity of human endeavor has been doused, diminished, and denied. It is the greatest crime to deny freedom and to prevent a brother of the same birth from creativity and expression. My mission before departing is to reverse the misnomers, misdirections, and erroneous mindset of the Sinhalese in Sri Lanka. For 60 years, they have been living in this false sense of belief that they are a superior race and are becoming an extinct species. I, after suffering at their stupidity, migrated out of Sri Lanka, suffering discrimination and sufferings for serving the Sinhalese people in their areas. I personally don't think they have anything great of themselves. Instead of displaying their superior quality, they are showing their barbaric, racist, fanatic, and narcissistic tendencies. Some people disagree with me, but my contention is, who elected these characters such as SWR Bandaranaike, the man who initiated the racial strife, G.R. Jayawardena, who said, if you want war, I will give you war. And Mahinda Rajapaksa, who said, we cannot wait to differentiate civilians from terrorists, just kill them all. I want to see Mahinda Rajapaksa stand not only as a defender, but also as a witness to the 2009 genocide. The Sinhalese people have only two choices: change their attitude towards people of other denominations, or forever live in fear. It is a human nature to revenge. So whatever happened in the last 60 years, and particularly the genocide of May 2009, calls for revenge and retribution. Mahinda Rajapaksa and Gotabaya Rajapaksa may live for another decade or two, but the Sinhalese people have to live with it forever. They do not seem to learn, as I infer from their recent local elections, where they keep repeating the same racial and fanatical mindset. Mahinda and his mafia will continue to plunder the people, but they don't care, or they don't know, for they are imbued into something else. The Sinhalese people, they don't care, or they don't know they are being imbued into something else. A leader who is interested in building a just society and a decent nation will not encourage tourism and Middle East mistress service. There are much better systems such as agriculture, industry, intelligence, high-tech industries to build a nation. I do not want to name the countries, but you can buy a house with a wife for $1,000. Yes, you know the wife I mean. When women are sanctioned to immorality, the children are bound to become Rajapaksas. Sri Lanka has to be turned around and made to point north. One thing I learned, that we Tamils must learn not to expect others to come to our rescue or fight our freedom. It's us and only we have to fight for our freedom. I kind of get a feeling that most Tamils expect someone to go, do and die for them. It's not going to work. We have to do our own struggle. We have to unite. We have to work hard. We have to build a better world communities. And we have to build Mount Sinai hospitals and great universities for the world. For now, we have been shown a larger world to live. We owe something to the world. The difficulties of our brothers and sisters in Sri Lanka are in our hearts and minds. But when we do well in the world, they will do well too. But now, God has shown us a bigger world, better food and better health care. Let us make that world a better place, for they gave us their life and land to live when the tyrants made our difficult in Sri Lanka. When the tyrants made our life difficult in Sri Lanka. Someone told me we should go back to India. Thanks for the idea. We went all over the world. What we had to fight is ignorance among Sinhalese. In this context, every battle has to be fought, and every battle has to be won, and every son of a bitch has to be tamed. There is nothing called surrendering or giving up to the corrupt, criminal, cunning and uncaring. For the world is full of cunning animals that live by the rule of the jungle. We are not trying to defeat people. We are trying to defeat a mindset of primitiveness, cunningness, timidity, ignorance, indifference, stupidity, illiteracy, slavery, and poverty. When freedom, democracy, equality, fraternity, friendship, and professionalism are threatened for the selfish purpose of a few, one has to wage a campaign to subdue the beast. Today, some men still as primitive animals that has to be caged, controlled, trained and tamed. Until such time it can be educated to be part of a civil society, it has to be controlled, disciplined to live an orderly existence. It's a great concern to find in Sri Lanka, it is the government or the state that is the threat and cause of the problems. It appears that the Sri Lankan people subscribe to racism and fanaticism over peace and prosperity. These governments were elected by democratic process, and they become kind of terror to the Tamils and others. One expert quipped that Sri Lanka has successfully hijacked democracy for a narcissistic purpose to destroy another ethnicity, and in that process ultimately destroy themselves. Repeated different political governments pursuing the same political policies point the cause and culprit to their religious and racial establishment, and the Mahasangha and the Mahanayakas have been identified as a seminal source and cause of this ongoing civil strife. In fact, one cannot get to power in Sri Lanka without the sanctions and blessings of the Mahasangha. When religion becomes politics, bloodshed is unavoidable, and the poor peasants go to war are innocent, ignorant people looking for a breadwinner, even if he becomes a killer of fellow humans. This little man does not know he is killing the very life that the religion is trying to protect. Ignorance of our mind is our biggest enemy. When will this man learn to differentiate fanaticism from religion? Before the advent of the Europeans into Sri Lanka, it was a two-nation, one-country system. The Tamils, who are Hindus, lived in the north and east of the country, and the Sinhalese, who are supposed to be Buddhist, live in the south and west of the country. The south and west are fertile and plenty of rain and water. North and east are arid and lack of rainwater. This climatic divide divided the two cultures, one of lethargy and laziness, and other of industry and hard work. Why God destined two different people to two different environments, He only will know. In Sri Lanka, the government is the main instigator of civil unrest and civil wars. When governments become racial, fanatical, and tyrannical and partial, there is very little minorities can do. But Tamils are like Germans and Japanese, who have the resilience to rise up and soar again like the mythical bird phoenix, which rises from its own ashes and soar to new heights. We Tamils are rising in the world, not because we are smart, but we really care for the world. When my friend Punithavel jumped from 15,000 feet to raise money for cancer research, he established the fact that we had to become greater than ourselves and become the whole mankind. We had to dissolve and permeate our consciousness into the plasma of the universe. Sri Lanka is definitely on a wrong path. Not just being anti-Tamil, but in general conduct. But it's the Tamils who bear the major brunt of it. Any problem or inability among the Sinhalese is twisted towards the Tamils, and we are blamed for their inability and ineptitude. It is politically the right thing to do, but the consequences of these policies are far-reaching, and whatever they did in the last 60 years has come to roast them. I am eager to find out how they will deal with their problems henceforth. Recently, two of Mahinda Rajapaksa's members of the parliament were involved in a shootout with rifles, high-powered rifles, not revolvers. A young man by the name Duminda Silva, if survives, will be the living witness to the tyranny unleashed on Tamils. And another young man, Bharata Lakshman Primachandra, paid with his life. Why? How do we provide protection? How do we Tamils living outside Sri Lanka provide protection to our brethren in Sri Lanka? We diaspora must have two-pronged approaches. One, becoming financially, intellectually and politically very active. And two, join hands with the resident nations and act through them. In the era when the governments are becoming less relevant, less effective, and are burdened with unwanted and unnecessary tasks and debts, it is the non-governmental organizations that have to carry the burden. Individuals and corporations are flushed with surplus capacity and capital. We must employ those resources to help our brethren back in Sri Lanka. There is no financial crisis in the world except the governments do not have the money to keep the people on handouts, handed out more freebies. You know, understand what I say? Handouts, more handouts. The politician in his greed to get elected promise people the undeliverable. And the people who are used to handouts and bailouts are fast to spend the money and come back to the politician for more. But the people with the means and money say no to it. They are asking, you go back, and they are telling the politician, you go back and ask them to tighten their belts. The butchery of the people and currency are sure way to destroy a nation. Sri Lanka has done it several times. I am going to give you a small example on how rich people live and how poor people live. Rich people live on a shoestring budget. In the first place, they do not eat outside their home. They brown paper bag to work. That's it, they take their food in a brown paper bag. That saves money and improves health. If they need to eat outside, they go to McDonald's where a small coffee and a muffin costs $1.46, tax included. Now the poor man goes to the same McDonald's and orders a large potato fries, French fries, a medium hamburger and a large Coca-Cola. Cost $8.99 plus tax equals $10.16. When you repeat this 30 times in a month, you have saved $260.96. $260.96 invested every month for 1 year will yield more than $3,000 per year. You do that for 10 years and you have $30,000. I had not applied any interest or inflation. When 800,000 diaspora Tamils saved for 25 years, it amounts to 60 billion savings. That is how Tamils become the 10th richest community in the world. Imagine the prosperity the Sri Lankans would have enjoyed have they not jettisoned the geese that lays the golden eggs. But God was watching and said to himself, I am going to give these people better life in more fertile soil and better people to live with. That is why he has dispersed us only into rich nations. Thank you, God. What about the Sinhalese in Sri Lanka? Call me a racist. It's not a problem. I will accept it with a smile. But every morning I get up and be at work at 6 a.m. sharp. And I encourage my associates to work as hard as they can. And when they go home with a fistful of hard-earned money, they call me Uncle Massey. I have become the IMF to several people. As Confucius said, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. But teach him to fish, he will feed the whole world. That is my maxim. My parents and my alma mater showed me a pathway to prosperity. I showed that way to my associate and they fly high. That is what has to be done in Sri Lanka. Instead of bringing the Tamils down to their level, if you want to make the shorter line of the two lines longer, you can do it two ways. One is make the shorter line longer, or as the Sinhalese did, make the longer line shorter. But in 1971, I told this to the Sri Lankan government. They said, we don't need any advice from a Demulo. But that very Tamils are now helping to run the world. Now you decide who the real terrorists are. The people who put people to work, put food on the table and roof over the head, or the people who arm themselves and enter the free man's home, rape his females, kill the males and loot their property. You decide who the terrorists are. It's a shame the world did not know how to differentiate good from the bad. But God is watching. People need a religion, any religion, a government and law enforcement. But then the very religion is turned into fanaticism. And the very government is turned into racism. And the very law enforcement is turned into state terrorism. There is something terribly wrong with that nation called Sri Lanka. The nation has been hijacked by nefarious and narcissistic elements. It did not happen overnight. It happened over a period of 60 years. And today we have a nation that is in serious trouble. That is Sri Lanka, next to Somalia. When you have a president who is accused of murders, murderers are invited and recognized for their heroism. And when you have lawmakers become lawbreakers armed with automatic weapons, the fence has begun to eat the crop. When that happens, there is no return to civility. Today, governments are becoming less relevant. Militaries are ineffective. And they can destroy nations from the sky. But they cannot destroy the psyche of the people. You know what is gathering momentum. The people power is gathering momentum. That power is grounded on justice and the desire to live that no tyrant can stop. Mahinda Rajapaksa and his gang will be running soon. Little they know, there is no land between Sri Lanka and South Pole. I had a dream, the Rajapaksa jumping into Hambantota beach, swim southwards. Let's see how far it goes. That's all for this week, folks. Until next week, adios, tutala. In the meantime, 70 million Tamils worldwide, unite, stay together, work hard, and never ever give up. The best is yet to come, and we are winning. My name is Subramaniam Maslamani, a world-class Tamil, powered by convictions, commitments, and conscience.